All right, today we're going to have Amber Sherrick and Gary Sefton of the e-learning department to talk to us about careers in educational technology, which e-learning or electronic learning is part of. Anytime students get into their Blackboard account, whether it's to do something passive or active, they're participating in electronic education, electronic learning. Very handy, of course, for distance learning, which is certainly a big thing today. So, welcome you guys.
Thanks.
So, first question, how did you guys, or why did you become interested in this field?
Want to take it first?
It was actually, e-learning wasn't really a thing when I was in learning and development, when I first started in my career. So it was just kind of a new technology that the organization I was working for was starting to develop. As really as a cost-cutting measure to get away from more of the in-person course facilitation and make a more standardized approach throughout the organization through e-learning.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Well, it's changed. When I started student teaching, we didn't have online courses or training in that perspective. It was mainly in person. So as things transitioned from there, much like Gary was mentioning, it was more of a way to try to gain a bigger audience, a broader audience, without having to, have the costs of an in-person place or individual to take care of the training that we needed for our faculty and our students at that time.
Okay. So essentially, how did you begin your careers or come to these careers? What path did you end up treading to get here?
Mine was a little bit of a checkered past. When I first started going to school for my bachelor's, I thought I wanted to be the proverbial lab coat researcher working with animals and behavior. And once I started student teaching, I actually fell in love with the academic environment and teaching and watching the light bulb come in individuals' heads, and kind of stuck from there. Been teaching since then. And when I started teaching online, because I wanted to broaden my career in terms of what I could do as an educator, I found that I enjoyed working in e-learning. So naturally then I started investigating more about what e-learning was. So more experiential on my respect, and I've recently started going back to school to get a doctorate in instructional design leadership.
Cool. Gary?
Oh yeah, I'm a long way getting here, is how I would express it. My first grown-up career was as an industrial maintenance mechanic, actually. Did that for several years, took courses here at Owens many years ago in the skilled trades area. As life progresses, your needs, desires, things change, and got my associate's degree, transitioned into training and development with the organization I worked for, and continued on to get my bachelor's degree, and it kind of turned into an e-learning department eventually, and it's kind of what I fell into. And then the part that I specifically do here at the college as the LMS administrator, again, kind of fell into my role or my responsibility, and it ended up now being kind of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not something I chose coming out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was going to be my plan. I didn't have much of a plan, but a very scattered path on my way here.
So the reason I asked that question is not unusual for people to start out at point A and then end up somewhere they never thought they would career-wise. So that's always interesting to find out.
It wasn't e-learning when I started on my path. It really wasn't something that was happening.
Right. So, what kind of education, training, or background do you feel the job requires? Or?
Well, I think you'll find on most job postings for the administrator, an LMS administrator, which is again kind of what my role is, would be a bachelor's degree in business administration, would be kind of a general, but they're looking more now to be more of an IT degree. administration or application administration, that type of thing, database management, are really kind of what, now are some of the required qualifications for a position like mine. So those talents certainly are very hot in the marketplace right now.
I will definitely say the same thing. A lot of institutions, depending on whether you're going towards an academic field or if you're going towards more of a corporate business job, it can really vary. And I've looked at postings, and I've also seen, especially since the pandemic, that there have been a wide increase or a vast increase in the number of certificate programs that are being offered for instructional design, which is more of my tailored area. And along those lines, depending on the type of institution or organization that you choose to work for, they might require as little as a certificate where you take several courses specifically towards that area, or they may require a academic degree such as an associate's, bachelor's, or even a master's, and some actually do prefer doctorate too.
Let's see, so what are some of your main responsibilities on any given day?
Main responsibilities, at least in the areas that I've been focusing on, are helping faculty to craft a course that has a good design that is working for the students that they are working and instructing with. Oftentimes, we do see a lot of faculty or instructors who may come to us with little or no experience in e-learning or technology, and there's a lot of remediation that goes into helping to get those instructors up to speed when working and teaching online or even in a hybrid environment. So mainly it's troubleshooting in terms of what's working well in course design, or helping to create things that the instructor would like to provide to the courses, or even for trainings, helping to make sure, working specifically with backward design, as they say, that the goals of what you're attempting to deliver are met, and you work backwards from there to design what will help you get there.
Okay.
And well, from my assistant administrator role here at school, my really main responsibility is to make sure the Blackboard instance is up, and all of the associated tools that students and instructors use with the Blackboard instance are operating and functioning properly. And then when something isn't working, then it's my job to figure out why and get it resolved. So really that's the main job. That's priority number one for me on a day-to-day basis.
Let's see. What kind of skills or abilities, maybe personal attributes, do you feel are essential to succeed in the field?
I think it's essential in any field, but especially like an system administrator whose job it is to make sure that systems talk together and work together. You have to make sure that people understand what's supposed to be going on as well. So the communication skills, verbal and written communication skills are really critical in being able to communicate with students and instructors who are struggling or who are anxious in regards to use of the e-learning system. So I think your communication skills are really important. And then from a system administrator point of view, you need to be able to troubleshoot and analyze situations, software, people, as well, to be able to help them get to the resolution, to get things working again.
Right.
So I think those are critical skills and abilities that are really important in everyday aspect of the job.
Absolutely. Any job, like you said.
Yeah.
To tack onto that, I'll definitely second what he said about communication. It is so vital, both written and verbal, to be able to communicate with those individuals that you're working with and to try to coordinate individuals as well as even teams of individuals that you need to communicate with.
Mhm.
So not only presenting and communicating to individuals, but also being receptive and listening. So listening is also a big key skill that I would recommend that folks get familiar with if you're looking to go into this field. A few others. One thing in particular is customer service, good customer service. You really want to make sure that you, as an individual, as a business person, are working well with the persons that you need to and helping to make sure that their needs are met in a good manner. You want to have good etiquette and make sure that you keep up good business relationships. In addition, patience. Patience, they say, is a virtue. It's really a huge deal for working with individuals, as Gary mentioned, that might be frustrated or experiencing issues, and making sure that they can get where they need to be, so helping them from where they start. Project management, another good skill to have. Time management as well, being able to juggle multiple tasks at any given time and be able to switch gears any moment, because sometimes things can be unpredictable in the e-learning world.
Right. Which leads into kind of all right, well, if indeed this exists, what would a typical day or week be like for you guys? Which, typical, of course, is around, I mean, it's your experience. But for you guys, what do you find generally tends to happen to you in a given day or week?
My typical day starts with making sure that whatever activities were happening system-wise that were planned happened, and making sure that those things are going through, and that if there were any issues in any of the integrations, any kind of status updates from any of our providers, if there's any new updates being applied to any of our systems, any kind of that's the first thing I do every day. After that, it's support. Really is my priority, is making sure that, if a student's having a problem with a respondus exam, not being able to submit it, that I get that resolved for the student. And then when I'm not doing things like that, it really is about system management and trying to manage, that all the data, all the information that we use on all these various tools gets stored somewhere, and eventually you got to pay for all of that storage. So it's my job as a system administrator to minimize all that and put good system administrative practices together to make sure that we minimize that cost for the college. So that's really, there's dozens of projects involved in doing that.
Right.
So, and that's, there's aspects of all of that every day that I work on. So, I mean, it's a lot of email communication back and forth. For me, it's a lot of asking questions, trying to get information out of people so that I can help resolve their questions, get their answers. So, it's not a really high-paced, exciting job. But it certainly, if you're a person who likes to explore and learn new things about how, when something's not right or it's broke, how to get it fixed, it's a great job for that type of person.
Cool.
Typical day for me is meeting with individual faculty on either a one-to-one basis or going to groups of individuals that are instructing, or even employees who might need additional training in terms of some of the e-learning tools that we provide. So generally check the schedule first to make sure that nothing's going to creep up on me and unawares, and make sure that everything's functioning as it's designed. In terms of the course or the training that is going to be provided with the faculty, making sure that all the materials are there for the instructors or employees that need trained. In the one-to-one meetings, it's generally working specifically within the courses that the instructors are using, or the trainings that they're working to create, and helping them along the path of guiding them and guiding them through creative course design. Specifically, there are different tactics that can be used, so it really varies, and you have to really use creative problem solving there because one solution may not fit all problems. So it can be an interesting day, and I know Gary mentioned this too, that it's, if you like to explore, or if you like to, see new things, that's something that I get encountered on a day-to-day basis, is that no 2 days are typically the same. It's a lot of exploration, a lot of looking at emerging technology to see how it would fit, whether or not it would be useful or purposeful, making sure that the instructors are familiar with it or the employees are familiar with it and they know how to use it themselves. So again, it widely varies, but on a given day, those are some of the things that happen.
Okay. This question is sort of related. You did kind of touch on this and sort of typical problems or challenges. I don't know, pretty much spoke to that, but if there's anything else that I think might represent a typical challenge. Like I said, you guys pretty much did touch on that in the last question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, the management, making sure that that system's running is a problem in itself.
Sure.
Right? And the systems are really reliable. They are. There's not a lot that goes into that. It's usually helping people manage the use of the system. It's what really is a typical,
Sure.
is the problem most of the time. And that's where those communication skills that we talked about
Sure.
come in handy.
So absolutely, yeah. Because as we all know, sometimes your emails just magically disappear. So anyway, we won't go there. But yeah. And again, you may have touched on this, but I'll ask specifically, what do you really enjoy about your jobs the most?
I honestly enjoy working with the people and seeing where they're at. I enjoy personally seeing the light bulb come on in their head and taking what they gain from our engagement and our interaction and applying it. And I can't tell you how rewarding it is to have someone come back to you and say, hey, this worked. Because of our interaction, now I can do this, or I'm doing this, and I never thought it was possible before. So that to me is intrinsically rewarding, and that's one of the things that I like best about what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sometimes you can feel pretty removed from it, but what the service that I'm providing and making sure that the Blackboard instance and all the tools at work is really helping students and instructors succeed at what their goals are. It's hard to see it some days. Sometimes it's the last thing you feel like you're doing.
Right.
But that's what I enjoy most about it. And I think that's typical of a lot of people who are in the e-learning or in the learning and development field in general, are people who really take a lot of pride in helping others achieve their goals.
Again, this is another question that you probably have touched on a little bit, but just to ask specifically, what are maybe some frustrations that you face, some barriers on any given day?
I will say that Gary said something to me when he first came on board, and it stuck with me ever since then. It's not a matter of if technology fails, it's a matter of when. And that has stuck with me since the time that he said it, and I still hear it in my head when he says it, because that is one of the most frustrating things, is that when something doesn't work right, and then you have to go into problem solving and troubleshooting to get it to work right or to work around it. And that's where the creativeness comes into play, and knowing your system inside and out. So that's one of my frustrations.
Yeah, it's frustrating not to be able to get people, not to be able to have the answers to some of the people's questions and issues. Some of the things are beyond our scope or what I can touch at, reach out and touch. And we do our best to try to, point people in the right directions, and get them there. But sometimes there's issues that are beyond our control we can't resolve. And, you feel for folks, the students in the middle of an exam or something like that, and you understand that anxiety, but that's probably the least enjoyable part for me, is not being able to help those people out.
Right.
They're losing it at that moment, right?
Yeah, I think you mentioned empathy. I think almost any job you're dealing with people is really, really important too. So that's a good skill among communications of any kind of career.
Yeah.
Being able to how have your jobs evolved over time?
Well, like I said, when I started in learning and development, there was computer-based training, but it was not at all what we would consider e-learning.
Mhm.
So I have seen the advent of getting everybody had to be in a meeting at 9 o'clock over here to get their training every, Tuesday for whatever safety meeting or whatever to, now employees are taking and doing training on their cell phones.
Mm.
And that's an immense evolution in the 30-some years that I've been in the field, right?
Mhm.
It's incredible. And it continues to evolve.
Right.
And now you're seeing systems, we're doing the new Ultra courses. It's just another evolution in building systems that are now compliant, able, for all people to be able to use. And just it just continues to evolve, which is ever changing.
I have to second that too, because it does continue to change, and especially pandemic-wise, I think we both agree, we've seen a huge increase in the demand for folks in our positions, and that goes across jobs. You can go out on any job search and you can find out that there are many positions out there for folks in what we do, so the demand has increased. I can say that some of the skills or some of the things that how it's evolved is it's become more comprehensive and not just training where you go in, like you said, 9 o'clock in the morning, but also now you have to accommodate for accessibility, you have to accommodate for user design, you have to accommodate for different types of users, different modalities, virtual versus in person. So it has evolved, and it's going to, I think, continue to go that way as technology moves forward. So I found that e-learning or learning and development has become largely dependent on technology as one of its main drivers with the advent, like you said, of going into distance learning in the 90s, going back in the day. But yeah, it's even prior to that, we've seen the introduction of computers and technology into the learning and development fields, and I don't think it's going to go away.
No, that it isn't. That's where is it going to go? Let's see. Well, this is again somewhat related. What are some trends and changes you see coming if you even want to attempt to pull a Nostradamus on that? Or there's something that I'm sure that within the field you know
Well,
coming
yeah,
in your colleagues.
I think from a system administrator point of view, it's going to be the management, again, of space and bandwidth that, from an LMS administrator job, your point of view is you got to keep costs down and still provide the services that are required for your school. And so it's going to be a balancing act going forward, as people tend to use Blackboard and things like that, like a kind of a repository, and it's really not meant to be that way. So getting, teaching people to not use it that way is going to be the challenge, I think, going forward, so that we can keep a fast-moving, efficient system available to students. It's going to continue to be the challenge going forward.
Again, it's integrating all of the technology, so making sure that people have digital literacy. Instructional designers, much like system administrators, they wear many hats over the day, and I think that has evolved over time in general, because as our job descriptions change, so do the things that we do, and so do the duties that we have and the responsibilities. So again, I think it's come down to wearing many different hats. Are you a trainer? Are you a course developer? There's all these different subdivisions inside of the fields that have evolved over time, and sub-disciplines within instructional design and system administrator that have become specialties depending on the organization that you work for. So I really feel that it will be dependent on what job you choose, and where you find your niche, what makes you happy. And I really feel that that's a strong driver for anybody looking to go into any job, is that you really have to enjoy what you do, because that's a part of making sure that you're happy for your life.
And obviously, we're going to go there related COVID. What kind of long-term impacts of COVID do you anticipate?
I think, obviously, there was a huge increase here at Owens Community College when COVID had hit from usage in Blackboard. It just, you can look at the numbers and you can't believe it. It's insane how much it's switched overnight. Clearly, we're not going to continue at that level of have that same kind of usage, but we're certainly starting to see now that we've identified a certain set of students that prefer to interact digitally, electronically, rather than in person.
Mm.
And it's going to become, I think, something that we, as a school, need to really kind of manage and make sure that we're providing that option, that every instructor is providing all the options when a student is taking a course.
Mm. So basically, it spiked, but it's still going to kind of level up.
Yeah, I think
fairly
we're going to see a
consistent
level.
once it levels, but you feel at least it could be pretty stable.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So, okay. Let's see here. Professional development opportunities. What's generally available to you, be available to other people in the field to kind of keep on touch of what is, again, technology very rapidly changing. So again, what are some opportunities to stay on top of things and get some professional development?
There's lots of different organizations out there that you can become a part of. In instructional design, there's the Online Learning Consortium. You can go for the talent management if you're looking to go towards corporate. That's another learning and development organization that's pretty popular. In terms of academics, in terms of course quality, if you're going into education, quality matters for both K through 12 or even higher education. They're an institution that has evolved to try to help guide instructors and educators towards best practices that are data-driven, specifically for student needs, and making sure that those parts and the pieces are incorporated in the course. And they actually even have a few review processes that you can go through if you're an educator and you're creating a course. There's lots of professional developments, conferences. Gary?
Yeah, so from a system administrator point of view, a lot of times depending on who you're working for, what system you're using, a lot of that professional development will be provided by the vendor that the said organization is using. And those are always great professional development, because a lot of time, whether it's good or bad in this field of system administration, once you are kind of tied to a system, out in the marketplace, looking for jobs, they're often system specific.
Mm-hmm.
So they want you to have experience with Canvas or Blackboard or, whatever this product is over here, or whatever. So having those kind of certifications can go a long way in the marketplace. So it's good to get those. But otherwise, a lot of the development that I have engaged in myself professionally is really just on the community and blogs and website boards that are associated with a lot of the products and tools that we use. So there's always great information about optimizing your system or thinking about using our instance of Blackboard and maybe in a new way. So there's always those kind of things out there that we share, tips and tricks. And
sure.
When the thing breaks, how do you shake it and rattle it so it works again? So that kind of stuff.
Yeah, basically there is no lack of opportunities for you guys to keep on top of things and get ahead of some things too. Get ahead of
and there's always, in that community environment where you have, and that's what's great about those professional community boards, like there is a Blackboard user group here in Ohio that I subscribe to. And provides a great place to share ideas and thoughts and to get answers and solutions to a lot of the issues that you face. They're great for it. I think in every kind of personal development.
Sure.
They're great.
It's nice to know what your colleague people are doing out there, things
Yeah.
they've tried it, it worked,
Yeah.
it not work, and just, sharing ideas. That's always nice to be able to rely on your colleagues to help, but that's part of what collegiality is, helping out. Because you mentioned too, I mean, education, people in a corporate environment, you're still helping to educate the employees. And when I think of educating, not so much in the college, even in the government, the technology that needs to be taught. So there's still that e-learning aspect of it there. So you don't necessarily have to be in higher education, or well, even just education in general. There are obviously going to be jobs, not just in college, but so it's all over the place. But whenever somebody needs to be taught how to use technology, your kind of background is going to be helpful, it seems. All right. Is there any sort of last minute advice for people considering a career in educational technology in general, or something like e-learning, instructional design?
Try to become well versed in whatever it is. If you're looking to go into learning and development, get familiar with the topic or be acquainted with the topic that you're going to be working with the individuals. One of the main things I found beneficial is to get familiar with and learn the organizational culture, meaning that, be able to take the temperature of the people you work with and get a feel for what they need and meet them at their level. Some of the other things that, get some professional development opportunities, whether it's community courses, whether it's becoming part of a community listserv, or whether it's attending classes. You want to make a formal education, go after some credentials or micro certifications. There's plenty of them out there nowadays. They're cropping up like mushrooms after a rain. So just keep learning. That's one of the things I would say overall. Just keep learning. You never know what you're going to find come around that corner.
Yeah, system administration isn't really glamorous. It's not, you're not going to read your name in the newspaper very often. But you do get to help people reach their goals, right? So, and that's what I think, you get a kind of, it's really not easy to see all the time, but that's what you got to remember is that that's kind of the purpose you're serving. And that's what makes putting in sometimes some of that tedious work that goes into like system administration, makes you go ahead and do it anyhow, right? That you need that sometimes. So.
Cool. Any last minute thoughts, anything, or anything that perhaps I didn't cover that you feel should be communicated?
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate sharing your experience, and what goes into your careers. And that's very helpful because technology is there, learning technology is, well, getting into technology. But anyway, so yeah, thanks very much, guys.
You bet.